WMMS.
Hey, comedian Chris Franjola is back. One night only.
Just landed.
One night only. I know. Thank you for.
You're welcome. I'm
You're
happy to be
just
here.
door to door from the airport and a 7 o'clock show tonight at Hilarities. You thought, why fly over when I could land, have some fun with Clevelanders, a couple hours, and then
yeah, you're doing like a little.
I didn't know which way you were going.
You're going to Buffalo and then
Buffalo, Long Island, and Rhode Island, and then I'm done for the year. I think.
Nice.
It's been a busy year.
Aren't you the pride of Rockville Center? That's going back home for you.
Ronkonkoma.
Oh, that's right, because I dated a girl from
My father's
Ronkonkoma.
Rockville Center.
There you go.
I'm a Ronkonkoma guy out there in Suffolk County.
Ronkonkoma.
Yeah. Oh, glorious. A glorious place.
Well, Mary, she's making her new home there.
I've heard,
the island of Manhattan.
Out in Astoria, Queens for a little while.
Yep.
The comedian capital of New York.
So I've heard.
You'll have fun.
I'm so excited.
Is that what it is? Everybody hunkers down in Astoria?
Everybody goes out in Astoria.
That's where I was when I lived out there.
Yeah.
And I lived with 2 other comics. And then we'd all get together on Mondays when none of us had anything to do. We'd play basketball.
Right.
It was that part was fun.
Yeah, it's a good spot. I mean, you'll have fun.
Are you in New York?
I'm not.
No, you're
I'm
in LA.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm from New York, but I haven't been. I go back this weekend.
You got 2 houses out there.
I got 3 houses. How dare you?
3 houses.
Excuse me.
I didn't know the podcast was doing that well.
No. Yeah, I read 2 of them, but it's I saved my money.
Yeah.
And now you're a new dad and newish.
Dad.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
newish.
4 years,
4.
4.5. Just went to Universal Studios on Monday.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
it's
Orlando.
Your houses.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's got like
Surprise.
it's like $500 before you're even in the park.
Right.
And then everything is just it's unbelievable.
It's
Ridiculous.
insane,
Insane. I don't know how people do it with.
Did anybody
Like-
trip on mushrooms and take off their clothes and freak out?
No, I didn't see that
Small
Disney
World?
like the Disneyland guy. Yeah, this they run a pretty tight ship over there at Universal. A lot of
not like those
characters.
hippies over at Disney.
Oh, it's wild over there. Anything goes. Yeah.
Just standing there, 92 degrees, and
Yeah. So, and going on all the rides that are absolutely terrifying for my daughter. They don't tell you that when you get on. You
Right.
figure how scary can a Minion ride be, but I mean, it was terrifying. It's like a roller coaster. And my daughter was screaming, crying, but you can't stop it. You just gotta,
Not fun screaming.
Yeah, you just kind of got to let it end. And so she'll never watch the Minions again, which is probably a good thing.
That actually might be the plan. They're like, this is how we get them to move on.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
trying to traumatize kids out of patronizing Universal Studios anymore.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Well, we go down to Florida for spring break usually. My daughter is in the 2nd grade. She's 7.
Oh, so you're in the young. You have young kids.
I was almost
too.
out. Yeah, I got 2 in college and then started all over again.
Oh,
but
good for you.
yeah, but we go down there for spring break, and I think this is the year that we're going. Usually, we'll just kind of rent a place on the water and kick around for a few days, or whatever. But I think this might be the year. That's a good tip. It might be the year that we start putting her on rides and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
4, 7's
7, you
yeah,
can do
better than
it.
4.
I think
but
7, yeah.
You're still on the kiddie rides.
We
at
got to
4.
go on Secret Life of Pets 7 times. That's the only one we can
They
go
pick
on.
one that they like.
Yeah,
This
and it
is
was-
where I'm comfortable.
Yeah, we just kept going and
Doesn't
going
make them
in Secret
scream.
Life of
I think
Pets.
I was 5 or 6 when we went to Disney World, and my dad took me on the mine ride, and I was not tall enough to go.
Yeah.
He just, they're like, can we measure your kid? And he's like, no. They just put me in, and they're like, okay. And so, that was way too much for me. I was terrified. And then the next roller coaster that I went on, I thought was going to be the scariest thing ever, and it was the mine ride at Cedar Point, and it was so wimpy that I was like, okay, I can do this.
Oh,
I can do this. But it was
You overcame those fears.
but I was like having a panic attack before that was even a word.
Right. I don't even know
Just
why they
freaking
have
out.
the measurements there, because my daughter was 3 inches underneath every one of them, and they're like, go ahead, it's fine. But then again, the people working, I mean, I think they're having trouble getting people to work there.
Exactly.
I didn't know which one was Shrek, like the actual Shrek or the people working the rides.
They're like getting
Everybody
the cream
looks
of the
like
crop.
Shrek
Is
at
what-
Universal, yeah. So it was wild.
I feel like I missed out by doing these things for the first time as an adult because my parents hated to travel.
Right.
So we never went anywhere.
Me, same here.
Never went to Disney.
I've still never been to Disney.
Like my mom would tell us about like, oh, we went to Knott's Berry Farm when I was a
Right,
kid. And I was
yeah.
like, okay, but we didn't go anywhere.
Right.
So all these places, the first time as an adult.
Yeah.
And in that capacity, you know, you're watching your kid,
Right.
a chaperone. And so, but it would be weird. It would be more, you know, you talk to people that went to these things as kids. Those are nice memories to have.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I don't have any of them.
Your parents
either.
hated to travel
We
too?
didn't. We did nothing. We
Yeah.
we camped about 15 minutes from our house, just like in a woods. I remember one day it was like a hurricane, and you know my parents were just gonna wait it out, and I was like, why don't we just go home? We're 15 minutes from home. Like we don't have to stay in this tent during a hurricane.
We can walk.
Yeah, we could be home in 10 minutes.
You're on Lake
but-
Ronkonkoma.
Yeah,
You're out
we were
there,
out
big
there.
body of water there. And
Yeah, we were. So that's what we did, just camping for, you know, like real camping, like
Outdoor
tent
camping, yeah.
camping.
No,
Not the way it is
not
now.
pillow cushions in the living room.
No,
and,
like
yeah.
tents and no showers and
Right,
just wild.
But
It's
did you
terrible.
dip your toe in first with the backyard camp or no? Right to the
Backyard
park.
camp, of course. Yeah, big tent. We got a Herman's World of Sporting Goods, big canvas orange tent, like a circus tent. And
those,
you know,
like, the tents now are a little bit more idiot-proof when you're packing them up.
Oh,
Trying
yeah.
to pack up a canvas tent.
oh my God, it was
is
a nightmare.
There's no way to do it. Like, you had to be a professional tent
Tent packer.
folder
Yeah.
to get those back into what seemed like a sack that shrunk.
Yeah, you're like, this fit in here when I got it.
Yeah. Pull it out the
And now-
next year.
I'm folding
Covered
it
in
back on the same
mildew.
creases.
Yeah.
And it's all like, because that's the thing, you go camping and then you got to set up the tent again when you get home so it dries out. And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
No,
I'm not
it's
doing,
just
I'll buy a new tent.
Yeah,
next
just get
year.
it all mildewed up and just go do it next year.
I mean, inflatable mattresses have gotten to the point where you just plug them in, turn them on, and then they stop when they're where you
Yeah.
want it. There have to be some kind of reverse thing for the tent where it's like maybe semi-inflatable.
One button.
Yeah,
Yes.
one button
Yeah.
sucks it back into its own
I'm sure
carrier.
they
With
have
the
it.
nylon ones now that they have that are real, like they collapse pretty easy.
I'm seeing they
But
got
the old ones are
something now that
insane.
like hooks to the back. If you like an SUV,
Oh, yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
tent that goes on the back of the SUV, so you kind of live in your SUV and then
Yeah.
just come out in the tent
called
for
van life.
for fun. Yeah.
Hashtag van life.
It looks so exotic.
Right.
Chris Franjola is doing one show tonight at Hilarities. It is a 7 o'clock show. That is 7 o'clock Eastern.
Any minute now.
Any minute.
Yeah.
That was like a feature on the car that he had in Breaking Bad, like the Pontiac Aztec.
Aztec
Oh,
had the
Like they
thing.
right.
came
That's
with like a
right.
tent.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the car show and seeing that and being like, that's actually really cool.
That was like
And
the car
then,
that put Pontiac out of business, right?
Yeah,
That
pretty
was
much,
the
yeah.
ugliest thing ever put on
tent
the road,
option.
and they were
Yeah.
out of business.
They're like, oh, we were counting on more people.
Much to
wanting
the chagrin
go
of my
camping.
dad, who loves Pontiacs.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, sure. I think my sister-in-law still drives a Sunfire or something. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that was the
yeah.
worst
But they
one.
had like that sweet
Yeah.
two-seater too for a while.
I
There
had
was
a Bonneville. I had a Pontiac Bonneville when I first
Bonneville.
moved to LA. Pontiac
Yeah.
Bonneville with a fake convertible roof.
Nice.
That blew off on the 101 one day. It took a giant. Thank God it didn't kill anyone. But yeah.
What year
so-
was it?
Oh, I think it was like 84 or something.
I think we had like a 92 Bonneville.
We
and
had
by then
one
they were all
too.
like plastic.
It was like the first car, the cool car
cool
that my
car.
dad got because we had
Yeah.
like minivans. I have five
Right.
five siblings,
Oh,
so we
okay.
were
Yeah,
always
yeah,
in like
yeah.
a station wagon or a minivan.
Yeah.
And then when my dad got the Bonneville, it was like it was after the divorce too. so
Oh,
it was like,
yeah.
what's this guy doing?
It was pretty
Mystery.
nice. It was pretty- And then I stayed in the Pontiac family for a while. Grand Am and on and on and
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
The Solstice. That was that two-seater.
Solstice,
It's like a
yes,
coupe.
yes,
A sweet
yeah.
little thing driving around.
What was the
The
Eagle
Fiero
brand?
was what we
Remember
had in
that?
high school.
Like
Pontiac
Eagle,
Fiero, yeah.
Eagle
Yeah.
Talon. Do you remember that car?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They like came and went real fast, but I always thought those were real cool when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And then I got in one when I could drive, and I was like, oh, this is a piece of crap.
Yeah, I felt the same way about a Plymouth Duster. Someday I will have a Plymouth Duster.
Yeah.
I just thought it was the coolest thing. One of
Yeah.
my neighbors had one, and he was like the cool.
I gotta
you
look
know,
it up. I don't even know what
pop-
a Plymouth
Oh
Duster
man,
is. Does that one start with a crank?
It might as well.
I would have loved to have been privy to the conversations in the Pontiac boardroom when they were talking about the Aztec, and they're like, guys, we really got to get back on top again. What do you think? Tent.
10.
so people can sleep in their.
yeah.
Yeah, but aren't the cars
Those
already
look
outside?
pretty sharp.
It
though.
was.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're looking at probably the sharpest looking one.
Yeah, these are all like restored and looking great, but I'm sure not all of them.
It was a hot car
good,
there for a while.
1994 Plymouth Laser was an ex-girlfriend of mine. That was the car she drove.
Oh, I don't even remember
The Plymouth Laser. It was a 2-door coupe.
Just the Plymouth in general.
Plymouth all gone.
yesteryear.
That's yesteryear.
Chris Franjola, of course, in addition to being a man of mystery and a bon vivant, is the host of the Cover to Cover podcast.
Right.
Now, let me do the math. Now in its 25th year.
I'm pretty close. It feels like
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
What is the new episode
I mean, we just
the holidays?
The holidays, you know, and I managed to get it done. Talked a little bit about Universal, and then a lot of pop culture.
Yeah,
you guys do a lot of lists and stuff like that.
Lists, lists.
And were there like a holiday list, like top Christmas cities and stuff like that?
There was something
gingerbread that's destroying families.
The top 5 like flavors of Christmas flavored cereals. You know, everyone's getting into like Life cereal just doesn't have like rice Chex or Chex Mix. Like now they have like a Christmas one. Rice Krispies has a Christmas one. Cheerios has a Christmas one. So we counted those down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you tried any of them, or is it?
No, we don't try any.
You just
we do absolutely no research. Actually, the tagline for
How
our
did you rank
podcast
them?
is "Strong opinion, zero facts." You know, we don't do any research at all.
That's great.
Just
just go. Here are some Christmas cereals.
Yeah.
This is what.
Right.
And you and Heather still do her thing?
We do Juicy Scoop. Heather and I still do Juicy Scoop together. She's doing well over there with that. And that's it, you know. And then on the road,
you guys are at the forefront of the pop culture revolution.
That was the when she started doing like Real Housewives and stuff like that. You know, that was people seem to love that stuff. I don't really watch the Bravo stories, but people love them.
They're invested. I've known girls that will they'll be like, "Hey, I got to get home."
Yeah,
it's on.
I know.
This is the finale. We're gonna find out. Or we find out who cheated on who.
And they do like 20 cities now. I mean, there's so many, but
Real Housewives of Ronkonkoma.
I would kill for Real Housewives of Ronkonkoma.
That's the thing. They do 2 nice cities. We need some more middle class.
I know.
Cities.
Real Housewives of Spokane.
Yeah,
that would be fun. I mean, you know, I think they do Salt Lake City now, which I don't watch.
A lot of blondes on there.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one. I heard that one's actually really good because they're very, two-faced, where they're really nice in person and then talk so much trash behind their back.
Eventually, it just comes. They just flip over tables, right? I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. Stay on the show.
Exactly.
As soon as you see them grab their glass and lift it up, you know somebody's going to flip the table. They're just trying to make sure their wine doesn't get spilled.
Yeah.
Well, because conceivably now, every television show, part of what the network does or the streamer or whatever is they'll have the companion podcast.
Right.
So now it's not enough to watch the show.
Yes.
You go, hey, come over here.
Yeah.
And we're talking about what you just watched, right? It used to be the wrap-up show.
I did one for
used
Sons
to be,
of Anarchy.
That's right.
On FX.
That's right.
I did the Sons of Anarchy wrap-up show.
Yep. It was Sons of Anarchy, then they had Talking Dead that Hardwick did.
Well, they wanted Sons of Anarchy to be the Talking Dead, basically.
Yeah.
That was already a hit. And they figured we're just going to do the same thing. So they wanted it like comedy.
Yeah.
So they hired me to do it. And they were like, do jokes and stuff
Not a
after
comedy
people
show.
just got murdered.
Yeah.
You know, so, and these people were so invested in that
What a
show
great
that if
show,
somebody
though.
was murdered, they would, and we would bleed right into the show I was doing. And we all do jokes all the time. Like Katie Seagal got murdered. And we're like, the hate that I got online.
What did she say?
Yeah. People were they just wanted to kill me.
R.I.P. Tara. Anyway.
That was a tough time.
Wow, yeah.
And I had to work with the guy who what's it, Kurt Sutter.
Kurt Sutter.
And
Katie Seagal's husband.
Yeah, exactly. And he's no prize. So that was
a little rough around the edges.
Oh man,
the guy did time before
to get anything out of that guy.
Yeah,
so, it was and then one time I actually had to interview on this at the same time Marilyn Manson and Courtney Love. They were on the show somehow. She played a school teacher and he was like in prison or something.
Yeah.
And I interviewed the 2 of them for the final episode. And it was just off. They were at their height of their craziness.
Yeah.
Both of them. And it was off the wall.
Well, because Kurt Sutter did The Shield is what he had done
That was
before.
his first thing.
Yeah, Sons of
before.
Anarchy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he had come from
But he's
that.
from Rahway, so it's like he had a prison in his backyard,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then he did some time somewhere. I
He's the
think.
real deal.
He is.
There was a time where he was doing stand-up early on, even before he got into any TV writing, but he was a stand-up for a minute.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was trying.
What's the
Pre-ponytail?
deal with C
Yeah,
block?
yeah.
Started in the talent show.
Yeah.
But he's like an old school vegan too, Kurt. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
was probably talking
Yeah.
your ear off about not eating meat.
Oh, he was, it was, I mean, I guess there was, what I learned later was there was a lot of fighting going on the set of that show. I mean, like fist fights between like
Oh, my
him
gosh.
and Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
And so they would come right from like fist fighting each other to do the fun wrap-up show.
It's so wild. Like and then you got to kind of referee the whole
Oh,
thing.
man, and I didn't even really watch the show. They hired me last minute. It was supposed to be Jay Moore. And he bailed out last minute for some reason. He had another job or something. So they hired me literally with 15 minutes of prep time.
Well, it's also got to be awkward too, because like it is a thing for more people to see you because it's such a huge show, and so you want to kind of do your thing, but within the confines of that.
Right.
And you're like, okay, these guys are just fighting, and now I gotta do this song and dance about the show, and
And that was the thing. I was like, because it was a big audience, I was like, but it was getting me nobody I wanted.
Right.
And they didn't like you. You
Yeah,
said.
they
They're like,
hated
stop
it.
making fun of this.
And then they kept having me sit at this table. It was supposed to be their table that they sat at for their meetings and stuff, the Sons of Anarchy table. So they have me sit at it for the show, and people were furious that I was sitting in the head guy seat, like, get this guy. Like, it's a
Ron
TV.
Perlman should be
People
sitting in
take
that.
stuff so serious.
Charlie Hunnam's not really a biker, right?
He's Australian. Right?
Yeah, something. But nice enough guy. But what a nightmare.
How long was that on? How long did that go?
They did 3 episodes a season, and I started in season. I think they went 8 seasons total. So I did like the last 3 seasons, but they didn't do every episode, just the big episodes.
Yeah, but
After,
that's like
the
a
major murder.
3. Yeah, it's like 10 or so.
Major murder.
Yeah, right.
All right, guys. Tonight we're talking about. So in their minds, where was the funny supposed to be, or did they
Just
completely
in
misread the
fact
audience?
I guess they were really basing it on what Hardwick did but that show was a little more tongue in cheek.
And he also wasn't
Walking
being
Dead.
super goofy.
No,
on
not
that
super
show.
goofy.
He was
And
more
they-
a nerd about it.
Over on FX, they wanted like super goofy, like let's make it real fun, and it just didn't. It just
Yeah,
didn't
it's not
work.
going to translate. Yeah,
it
because
just didn't
it's
work.
such an emotionally people are so emotionally
I think there
invested
was
in
like
characters, and then you're goofing about it. It's like it's not. It seems disingenuous.
There was one episode where they like lit the guy's daughter on fire or something.
Yeah, they put her in a hole.
Yeah,
Lit her on fire.
yeah. And then like right from that, they went to me. It was bad news.
Because he was like dating a
right.
someone they didn't like, or it was I remember that episode.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking back to that show now. I'm like, I think at one point they scalped someone
They
and
did,
put
yeah.
salt in his head.
Yeah. Every episode we just got more gruesome. And then it would say, do some comedy.
Yeah.
I remember them talking.
Lighten the
They were
mood,
talking in my ear because it was live. We did it live right after the show.
They're like,
And
say
they would be
something
talking in my ear and it's like, say something funny. And they would give me lines to say. But these are like corporate people who have
Yeah.
no idea. And I'm like, no way I'm saying that.
Right.
No way I'm saying
People
that.
are going to think those are your lines.
Yeah, I know,
You'll never
so-
sell another ticket.
Right.
I saw that guy host
Yeah,
Sons
thank
of
God
Anarchy.
That's over.
Have Maggie Siff as Foxy,
Yeah.
oh boy.
She
Cute.
got killed in it. I remember that.
They all did.
Yeah.
Sooner or later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like when
She
somebody
got
wants you
killed.
to do comedy at like a birthday party or something like that. Like,
Oh,
here's
the
our
worst.
90-year-old grandpa. He's going to say a thing, and then there's going to be comedy afterwards. And he goes out there, I've suffered for so long. Now here's a guy that nobody wants to listen to. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is not a good setup.
I did a firefighter event one time, and the
They
person
did
who
an
went up
in
before me-
remembrance.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
exactly. Like before me,
Yeah.
and one guy who had survived, but was burned
Jesus Christ.
over in like 90% of his body. He got up and did something, and they're like, and now Chris.
Oh, God.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Well, I can't
Comedy
do any
only
worse
wo-
than that guy.
Comedy's tough. Outside of comedy clubs,
Yeah,
it's tough.
it is.
Corporate gigs are like, make
Yeah.
fun of
That's
the worst.
Make fun
That's
of
why I
Jeff.
don't do arenas because
Yeah, that's it. I don't
Yeah,
want to
it's
do
just too
that.
tough.
I'll prefer a Wednesday night at 7 in Cleveland. That'll work for me.
Chris Franjola is doing a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock in Cleveland
That's it.
tonight at Hilarities, right around the corner from us, right
Yeah.
there on East 4th. And if you don't see him now, tonight, who knows when you will again?
Exactly.
I don't
Now's
know.
the time.
Yeah. And if you're one of our listeners in Buffalo, Chris will be there tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, I'll be in the
What's the club in Buffalo?
Helium Buffalo.
All right.
Yeah.
And then the Cover to Cover podcast.
That's it.
Still tops in his field in the podcasting space. That's what I like to call it, the space.
I like that.
Podcasting
I'll take
space.
that. That sounds real nice.
Well, good luck out there,
It sounds
homie.
better than just something you started because you were desperate.
Right.
Yeah.
Last resort.
Yeah, last resort.
Chris Franjola's
Yeah.
Desperation Project
yeah.
is doing quite well. Well, it's good to see you.
You too.
Yeah,
Always
yeah.
a pleasure.
Thanks
Good
for
to see
coming
you
in,
guys.
man.
Thank you.
Let me take a break here. If you want to text for anything, 35192. Otherwise, you can hit us up at AlanCoxShow.com, and we'll be back.
The Alan Cox Show on 100.7 WMMS and everywhere you go on our free iHeartRadio app.
Weekdays on 100.7 WMMS and